How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully just having a lovely day. The NFL draft of 2024 is complete. The Bengals switching things up on us this year. Switching things up on us in a big way. We've kind of touched on this in the past, and I was saying, hey, in the past, Zach Taylor and his team says, we got a couple things we're going to check off when we draft these players. Number one, team leader. We're going to have a team leader, team captain, good character player, does well in school, does all the right things. Number two, we're not going to reach for anybody. We're not going to force our hands onto players we feel like we need out of a position of need. We're just going to draft the best possible available. This year, changing things up a little bit. And you know what? Props to Zach Taylor and company. Because I understand, I love what they did. You build a good culture, and especially with the team captains, the leadership guys. You build such a team, great team culture. Team always believes they're in games. That's got a lot to do with the players they drafted, the type of people they drafted. Props to Zach Taylor. But he also looks back and says, hey, with the exception of Cordell Bolson, they've really struggled in the mid to late rounds of getting any sort of talent. Even in the first round, they've struggled to kind of get an elite player. The Burrow Chase that fell in their lap. And even then, Burrow Chase, you couldn't have missed on a Chase pick. You could have missed on a Burrow pick. T. Higgins fell into their lap. He had no business falling into the second round. Even him, right? And you want to see some of these other guys grow and succeed, but it just feels like, as a team that wants to be a Super Bowl contender year in year out, you got to find ways to draft in the mid to late rounds. And this year, Bengals switched it up. Taking some chances, going with the riskier picks. You start with Amarius Mims. 8 starts in his collegiate career. He was excellent in those 8 starts, but it's a small sample size. You take a big risk when you don't have as much tape on a guy, period. But at the end of the day, you watch the guy play and you see his ceiling is unlimited. He's got the ability to be that Pro Bowl type of player, that all-pro type of tackle, and he fills a position of need for the Bengals at right tackle when Trent Brown's contract expires. And more importantly, because Trent Brown's on a 1-year deal, he's got that ability to kind of slide in halfway through the season if he dominates and takes a spot. You have nothing to worry about there. I love the pickup. Meanwhile, again, risky pick. It's a risky pick because, hey, why not just move up one spot in the draft and pick up the best edge rusher in the draft? Could have done it. That's where the risk comes, where it's like, okay, you went for another, sixth offensive tackle off the boards. But there's no more playing around. It's been 8 years. It's been 8 years since the Bengals drafted a tackle. There's no more playing around, finagling around, just trying to draft, sign guys out of free agency. You got to try to find guys to build from within. And an offensive tackle is one of the biggest investments right after quarterback. Your quarterback's going to give you, you think a quarterback's going to give you 15 years. A tackle can give you 12 to 15 himself. That's a 21-year-old guy. You figure 10 years, 31, 12 years, 33, 15 years, 36. Guys, 33 to 36, the good tackles, the good linemen give you good years at that age. Meanwhile, an edge rusher is done at 30 more often than not. He's still going to give you production. He might give you, instead of 10 sacks or 12, he might give you 10, he might give you 8, he might give you 7. But it's a pretty quick decline from 30, 31, 32. And when that's your game, is being an edge rusher, you need to quickly decline. It's not the same. But I do love the offensive tackle drafting here. I think you have to do that. Meanwhile, you go to the second round. Then you get your lockdown pick. You get Kris Jenkins. I feel like this is the safest pick they got in the draft. I feel like this guy's going to do what you need him to do, and not just be the replacement to DJ Reader, possibly more, and be an excellent run stopper. I think this is their best pick of the draft as far as picking what you need as far as the value is concerned. You're getting an A+ on this one. You move down to Germaine Burton. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know. I know this guy is electric down the field. I know he's a nasty deep threat. I know he's a guy that can pose headaches all across the board, because you cannot bracket Jamar Chase and you cannot bracket T. Higgins if you give this man one-on coverage and a chance to beat teams down the field deep. Because if you put Jamar Chase in the slot and you put this guy out wide, one of those two has to be single covered. And if you single cover this guy out wide, he could beat just about anybody downfield. That is what he specializes in. And he's got that sort of ability. Some people say DK Metcalf. I almost think like Deshaun Jackson. He's not got Deshaun's speed. But Deshaun Jackson, back in his heyday there for a while, he was a 2 reception, 75 yards a game kind of guy, 3 for 120. That's the kind of guy he feels like. He's got that explosive pop, but it keeps teams honest. The concern is the emotional maturity. The concern is the temper tantrums on the field. The concern is he switched multiple schools in high school. The concern is the off the field antics. The concern is what that kind of attitude can do to a team, what it can do to a locker room, what it can do, again, team of leaders in the past. And it just takes one or two bad apples to really get things riled up. You worry about that. Meanwhile, you got, TJ training this guy makes you feel like you feel really good about what he can do. And you feel really good about if he just can settle things down. And if they can, still growing. We remember 21, 22-year-old players. And their brains ain't fully developed at that age. They're still learning. He's got time to really settle in. You get 2-3 years down the road and you still see the same thing, you're a little bit concerned. It's like, all right, but you gotta give these guys a chance. You gotta give them a chance to kind of really blossom and grow and, mature as a person. And if he can do that, he's got the skill set to be an excellent player. Again, though, risky pick. Risky pick with high ceiling. I feel like that was something positive, something the Bengals tried this year we haven't seen in the past. For the same best possible available. Now they're looking, well, let's talk about best ceiling available, but not best right now available. I feel like we've seen that in a couple of these picks. We've seen that again on day 3. Well, we really seen that in McKinley as well. McKinley Jackson had some injury problems there. We've seen him with that as well. It was kind of an early reach for him, a lot of people thought. But again, a guy with a lot of potential. Can really move guys around at the defensive tackle position. Something, again, the Bengals want to make sure they lock down. They go out their position and need a little insurance policy. A guy that, again, kind of versatile, can do some of both, can pass block, can run block, can, possibly fill and rotate. And you really think about a possible 4-man rotation at the defensive tackle position for the Bengals. And you got to love that. Keeps guys fresh, gets them pass rushers up there healthy and energized on third down. Really helps the pass rush ever so important. So, I like what they're doing there. Then you go to day 3. What's important again? You got to address the tight end position. The Bengals went to the well one too many times. They said, hey, we did it with CJ, a low budget tight end, and look what he's doing now outside of Cincinnati. They did it with Hayden Hurst, 1-year contract, make it work. Look how good it is. Anybody can plug and play with Joe Burrow. Then they bring in Irv Smith Jr. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. It was not pretty. And that was a lesson to be learned. Bengals said, all right, let's figure out the tight end position. Let's figure something out here. Let's try to invest in a position. They take 2 tight ends this season. And I love them both. You take Eric All, a guy, tall, lanky player, a lot of athleticism, feels like a guy that fits the bill for this team. He does what you want him to do on the football field. That fits the Bengals scheme. Great with the bootlegs, great with the seam routes, great with the run block, solid with the run blocking, we should say. Kind of good in the play action game. Something the Bengals use a tight end a lot in. It feels like he can put an instant slot in, fit the role, fit the scheme well kind of guy. Then you bring in Tanner McLachlan. And I love this guy. I think he's a sleeper pick of the draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is a guy that he's very versatile. He can run in the slot. He can run in line. He can run just about anything you ask him to do. He adds a different dynamic. Yes, all can do what you want a Bengals tight end to do. All can do what the Bengals have been asking their tight ends to do in the last 4 years. But this guy, I feel like, has a much bigger arsenal, has a much bigger repertoire, and has much higher ceiling as far as what he can do and to add an added dynamic to this Cincinnati Bengals offense. Again, it's a growth position. It's an improving position. It's a 1 to 2 year, developing position. We'll see if it turns out. I like the pick. I thought that was a great pick. And then, you got Matt Lee late in the draft, kind of get a center, get somebody that's got experience, 4 years in college. I like the pick there as well. Overall, though, if you were to grade this draft, you look at it, duh, you can look back. I just thinking in the head, I'm like, obviously you look back and say it could be an A+ draft looking back in hindsight. But I think when I say you look at this draft and say it could be an A+ in hindsight, right now, it doesn't feel like that because they didn't draft the safe picks. They didn't draft that felt like the best position. That felt like the guy that's got the best tape. That feels like the best overall player. They didn't draft that way this season, so there's a little bit of unease. It feels a little riskier because, again, Amarius Mims, I feel like that guy's a stud. He doesn't have the tape. It worries you. Worries you a lot. I feel like their second round pick, that was a home run pick. That's what you had to do. I think they nailed that one. And you get the other defensive tackle. You get the wide receiver with the potential concerns with how he plays on the field, how he handles himself. All that stuff's risks. But you look at the limited playing time. You look at what they did on the field in that limited time. It was great. it feels like you're taking a risk, hoping they can be what they showed you in them small flashes. That's where the risk is. That's why you say, hey, this draft, you can't give it an A, because there's just too many risks. There's too much reaching going on. Felt like the Bengals reached for some players, but they reached for these players because they looked at the upside at the draft position and said, hey, right now it might be a reach, but we see these guys as first round caliber players in 2-3 years. So for me, I look at this draft and say, hey, yeah, got the potential to be an A. On paper right now, though, it's about a B-. A B to a B- for me. Love y'all's thoughts, though. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.